Hello, everyone. Welcome to Innovator Insights from Idea to Impact. I'm your host, Henrik Johansson. Today, we're super excited to have with us a true innovator, the engineer, founder, and chairman of the board of DefenderShield, Daneil DeBaun. Welcome, Daneil.
Henrik, thank you so much for inviting me. I really appreciate it, and I look forward to our chat.
Yeah, we're super excited to have you here. We get a lot of folks on this show that are product creators, but may come more at it from an e-commerce, a business, and brand perspective, right? I think that you've come at it truly from a scientific innovation
Yes.
perspective.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yeah, actually, my background is in engineering, and
Yeah.
I was working for actually the aerospace early on in my career, and I converted over to the telecom business.
Yeah.
And that's quite a number of years ago.
Yeah.
And I've been in the telecom for quite a number of years when there was the Bell system and when there was the AT&T and when there was all those big infrastructure companies that provided services. And what I did was actually I was on the scientific side, and I was doing all the testing and developing the standards for telecommunications equipment. Much of the stuff we have in the network today. So yeah, my background was pretty much engineering from the very start. And I grew up on Long Island, and as an engineer, you were going to go to the aerospace because that's what you did, right? Yeah. And that's where I actually began. So
that's great. So you were not an entrepreneur growing up, and early in your career. Sounds like you were an engineer, and for many years.
Oh
before,
yeah. And actually, it was interesting. I guess really from early on, I looked to try to divert where I was going into some more entrepreneurial stuff, and it seemed didn't really do a very good job of it for quite a number of years. Yeah. But I did start a few different companies over the years, but it was but I was really I ate because I was an engineer. Yeah. That's what happened. So.
But it sounded like you had the entrepreneurial bug.
Oh yeah. And you know what? I didn't want to work for anyone. I didn't want anybody to tell me what to do, but sadly, for many parts of my career, that happened.
Yeah. So did you come from an entrepreneurial family, or was it more of a engineering family, or?
No, it was a typical family where the father was a banker and the mother was a stay-at-home mom, and so there was not any entrepreneurial sort of work. Yeah. Although my mother's father was he was a contractor, so independent, self-serving person, grew owned bar, so he did a little bit of things that made him a bit more independent. And sort of something I thought of even back early then, that was sort of nice to be your own boss.
Yeah. I mean, if you go back 20, 30 years, entrepreneur was not what it is today, right? Now everybody wants to be an entrepreneur, and it's relatively easy to start a business. Back then, it was more of a groundbreaking thing, like a renegade almost, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Like when you and I grew up, our goal was to go work for a big company and have make a living and feed the family. You didn't really think too much about, let me be an entrepreneur, right?
Yeah. When I told my parents that I was starting my own business, it was almost like, you can do that? Are you allowed to do that?
Right. Exactly.
Are you sure? That doesn't sound like a good idea.
Right. Exactly. Very rare back then, because I came out of the 50s, right? And so that was not sort of a path people typically look for. More the traditional kinds of places we went to.
So you had you tried a couple of things along the path. Was either one of them, whether or not like widely successful?
No, absolutely not.
No.
They were dismal failures. I had a Boncombi lift, which was a lift for picking out boats out of the water, and didn't sell any of them, and never really got off the ground. And actually, believe it or not, I was doing in aerospace at that time. There was NC equipment, numerical controlled equipment, that you program these big machines to make parts for you. And I actually started a company back then where I combined the maintenance and the development of product or software systems, actually what it really was, for the aerospace.
Oh,
But
wow.
but the aerospace at that time was going down the tubes on Long Island. So it wasn't a great business to start when things were already going downhill.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're an expert in electromagnetic radiation, EMF protection, and you've written books about it. You've been on TV, spoken at many conferences. What was it? Was that an expertise you developed sort of in your day job, and then one day you decided that, wow, there's an opportunity for a product in this space?
A great question. For me, it really was, of course, because of my background, I knew standards, and I also knew testing of systems, and was quite familiar with electromagnetic radiation. Actually, at that time when I was doing that kind of work, I was worried about one piece of equipment interfering with another piece of equipment, never the human body.
Yeah.
So one day my sons were visiting, and they were adult men at that time, and they had their laptops on their lap during the holiday one day. And my wife comes by and she says, "I want grandchildren. Get that thing off your lap." And like, she was a social worker. She had no engineering background or electrical experience, but she intuitively thought there may be a problem with the emissions that may be coming off a laptop.
Yeah.
And I said to her, the power levels are so low, there's no way it can interfere with the human body. And this is going back over 15 years, close to 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And I thought about it a little bit, and I said, well, let's take a look at the scientific side.
Yeah.
Let's look and see if there's any real data that shows there may be an influence.
Yeah.
And quite shockingly, I found there was a lot of evidence that the electromagnetic radiation exposures we had could have potential dangers to the human body. And so we thought about it a little bit, and because I'm a mechanical engineer as well, I said, well, heck, I can build shielding that can prevent a signal from passing through from a laptop to a lap.
Yeah.
And
so this was before the iPhone, right? Before we carried computers
before
in our
any of
pockets.
those things, right? And so I built my son one. Yeah. Both my sons, and their friends wanted it. And then neighbors wanted it.
So then was it like a shield underneath the laptop then?
That's where we started. It was a device that was a barrier between the laptop or the electronic device and the human body. And so we seem to be getting reasonable interest with people. And as you would imagine, very few people at that time really knew or were concerned about electromagnetic radiation. So we decided, well, let's make 1,000 of them. And if we sell them, we're in business. If we don't sell them, we're not in business, right?
Yeah.
And after the end of a year, we had sold 1,000 of them. So it was a very long path of educational programs. We had to help people understand that there is potential dangers to electromagnetic radiation. We had to describe what it was. We had to share the science about it. And surprisingly, actually, people were sort of a bit interested in what we had to offer. At that time, there were very, very, very few options at all in this kind of space. And then what happened was we sold 1,000. And I read an article one day about parents that went and they bought their daughter a cell phone, a 16-year-old child, a cell phone. and she was on it incessantly.
Mhm.
And after that year, she had a frontal lobe cancer and passed
Oh
away.
God.
And I said, oh my gosh. And there was evidence, scientific evidence that shows that this could be a real case, and
Mm.
that there was scientific evidence showing that there's the impact into the cell of the human body. And so I said, we said to ourselves, we have the technology that we can shield a cell phone. It
Mhm.
doesn't matter where the emissions are occurring from. We have the science, the technology to actually shield that device from touching the human body, and that's how we got into the iPhone 5.
Oh, wow.
Literally back then, we said we think we can actually shield that,
Mhm.
and all of a sudden, we now had to define the company, and we called it DefenderShield.
Yeah.
And it was a company that had shielding technology that we had developed, actually, because
Mhm.
of my background. I had the scientific knowledge of how you shield the kind of emissions. And we started packaging product up under the DefenderShield product line. And then 15 years later, we're probably one of the largest, if not the largest company in this space.
That's
And it
amazing.
was all started with, I don't think that's good for you.
Yeah.
It was really, almost circumstantial that it occurred. It
Yeah.
was almost by accident that it occurred.
Yeah.
But
It's a
we were,
combination
yeah,
of
yeah,
opportunity and knowledge, I guess. When that presents itself, that's what they
yeah.
say.
And
So,
so half of the next, for the past 15 years, half the time I'm educating. I
yeah.
try to share what we know, what science knows, not what I
Yeah.
just necessarily know, but what is scientific evidence showing that
Yeah.
dangers. And as you would imagine, you have the service providers on one side, and then you have the scientific experts on the other side, and they both have two differing opinions.
Yeah.
And so we're somewhat in the middle of all that.
Yeah. Because I mean, as we schedule this, I spent some time on your website and looked at some of the videos, and it still feels like it's not common knowledge.
No, it is
And
really not. And that's when I also oftentimes give examples. I smoked cigarettes when I was 12 years old. I stole them from my father's top drawer, and I'd smoke a cigarette, right? And back in the 50s, like that late 50s, early 60s, science knew that there was a direct correlation between smoking
Mhm.
and lung cancer.
Yeah.
How many years did it take before there was a ban displayed on a pack of cigarettes? How
Yeah.
long did it take to become a common knowledge?
Yeah.
And so that's a good example of when a technology is introduced to our environment.
Mhm.
There's many good things, and potentially there's some possible bad things about it. And
Mhm.
it takes a long time to wrestle through what the facts are and ultimately to understand the problem. And in this case, it took over 40 years with cigarettes. And I
Yeah.
think it's going to take 40 years with electromagnetic radiation and the use of cell phones to the human body.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, there's huge financial interests behind um,
Henrik,
that.
there are trillions of
Yeah.
dollars a year at play.
Yeah.
So the factions are pretty strong.
Yeah.
And they have a lot of money behind them.
Yeah.
But science is getting there. Which really interesting about that is I'm not sure you've heard of 5G, fifth generation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm from
okay.
Sweden,
So
so Ericsson is,
yeah, Ericsson's big in that
big in
place.
that.
And
Yeah.
it turns out that is where there's been more interest than all the previous years combined,
Hmm.
because in fact, there's no real understanding of 5G is not about one technology. It's about combination of many transmitting technologies that are used, where
Hmm.
previous generations like 4G and previous, they were at one transmitting signal level. These are at a very long spectrum. And the higher spectrum, there's literally no experience, no scientific evidence of what it may do to the human body. And that in and of itself has created some interest by the general population.
Yeah.
And
Because you're saying now with 5G, there's a whole different level of radiation that's happening at a grander scale that we don't really know how it's
we don't really know. And some call it like we're guinea pigs. And in a sense, we actually are. We really don't know from a scientific point of view what the actual implications are of this emissions that are around us all day. And so I think it's good that people are beginning to ask questions about this so they can make important choices about their lives and what they want to do with the technology and how they want to handle it in their family's environment. So
yeah. So this Defender Shield, does this still work in a 5G world, or is it more protecting you from?
Well, from an entrepreneurial point of view, you'll understand the problem. There was no shielding in the industry for these higher transmitting rates. I don't want to get too technical, but everything is around 1 gigahertz, roughly 1 gigahertz space. The new 5G can go up to 300 gigahertz. It's a transmitting rate that doesn't exist in past history at all. So we don't have much evidence of what the impact can be. And we do know that, like, for example, when you and I were in college, we were protesting, and then someone came up with the hose and hosed us off, and we ran. well, now there's a electronic version of that, an electromagnetic radiation emitting device at 90 gigahertz. And what happens is the human skin absorbs the RF signal into the human body. Actually, it's the sweat glands that act as an antenna at 90 gigahertz. And we get really hot and we run away. And so we're not running from water, but we're running from an emission that's actually a part of the 5th generation transmitting rates.
So you're saying law enforcement is using that today?
They actually do. And in war, they do, obviously, too.
Right.
And so it's really, there are certain parts of the 5G space that actually is used in lots of good ways and also in military and maybe bad ways.
Yeah. Fascinating. So let's go back a little bit. Was it always clear to you what the product was based on your background? Did you know? Because it's, as far as I can tell, it's a combination of different materials that.
Absolutely not. It was never really clean what would be what your target is. What we knew at the time was there were certain devices doing certain things, and we could take our technology that we had developed, which is metallurgical stuff, and we would be able to create solutions from that. And the problem is, it's not only the shielding, but how you package it up as well. How can you use this in, for example, fast forward, there are now, we have provided our shielding in some interesting applications where the shielding is put on walls, and these are really safe rooms where you can't transmit out or you can't transmit in. So military uses these kind of rooms that don't, so it protects their intellectual property, their databases from being screwed around with. So we never had that on our radar. We had no idea that that would be something that potentially would emerge out of the starting point that we started with.
So you're saying that's a product that you provide today too?
Yeah, we actually do. We took the technology we developed for 5G, and it's a single shielding material, and it can be put on walls. I would have never thought that would be an opportunity for us. But in this space, it emerges in different ways and over different times.
Yeah.
We actually now have, when you go to bed at night, we have a blanket that we can throw on top of you that not only keeps you warm, but prevents signals, RF signals from passing through. And so you're sort of protected in your own environment. And so that's something there's no way I would have thought about.
Yeah.
But the fact is we have a floating ground in our product, which allows it to bring more safety for the users around their human body.
Yeah.
So,
That's amazing. So, can you share a little bit about how the story about the 6-year-old is, horrifying. Do you have is there anything you can share for us to get a sense of how dangerous is it, or what kind of body of evidence is out there for?
Henrik, I actually don't like talking about it in terms of danger. I like to think about it as if you understand what it is, then you can work in your environment and sort of be safe using certain rules, simple rules. But the fact is, the most severe case, a cell phone to the front, to the side of the head, can go into the frontal lobe. The standard was developed over 30 years ago, and the signal is being transmitted at a certain level where it can go through a 6-foot male's head about 1 to 2 inches and increase in temperature by 2 degrees.
Wow.
And so the standard was used based on military men on the average of 6 foot tall. Today, that represents roughly 3% of the use. You have younger users, very young users, female users, and the resistance of the skull, of the cranium, and all those things that a signal goes through can actually go 1 to 2 inches for a 6-foot male, or for a 6-year-old, it goes completely through their head. So there is evidence, scientific evidence, well-known studies that actually quantify this kind of penetration and the potential impacts. And we know there's this elevated increase in probabilities of cancer in the frontal lobe under certain circumstances. So if you use it for 10 years or more heavily, several hours a day, you're 3 times more likely to get frontal lobe cancer. These are standards that, analysis we understand in the marketplace because people actually looked at this stuff. If you look at, I don't like talking about that because it's a smaller population of people that are really ultimately affected by that, but there are clearly some that you've seen probably in your own life. But there's also a sensitivity that people build up. If you smell gas, you may not be bothered. I may not be bothered, but others are. Multiply chemically sensitive is what is referred to. And so there's a population of, on the average, 20 to 25% of us that are multiply chemically sensitive. Well, it turns out there's an equivalent for electromagnetic radiation exposure as well. Today, I've seen many studies that talk about up to 50% of people are in some way or another impacted by the emissions that they use around their bodies all day. The Wi-Fi, the laptops, the cell phone, they're all transmitting into your environment. And it may give you a bit of a headache. It may your fingers may tingle a little bit. There's so many symptoms associated with the kind of exposure that we know about today. In other words, 20 years ago, it was 10, 15%. Today, it's 40, 50%. So it keeps on getting higher and higher. And it's environmental. It changes
I remember
I
think Sweden was one of the first countries to start recognizing what they call allergy to electricity as a real condition. And it was in many ways ridiculed
Yeah.
in the beginning, because people, oh, he's just trying to get out of work. He's claiming he's allergic to electricity, but like you're
Henrik,
saying, it's a real thing.
yeah, Henrik, in Sweden, as well as several other European countries, you can get sick, and it's legitimate sickness that you're electric hypersensitive, and you can take time off as a result of it. It's really more mature in Europe, sort of our understanding of the impacts to the population than in the U.S. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I'm glad there are folks out there like you that are educating the world and creating products to help protect us.
You know, what happened, I was sort of in a strange place. I was a technologist that was in the business for so many years. So I really sort of understood it pretty well. And then when when my wife said I want grandchildren, it forced me to think about it a tiny bit. I didn't believe it at first. And then I began reading in, and I found there was evidence that could exist, right? And so what I realized was there's these silos of understanding in the medical community that didn't talk to the technology community. And so there was not cross-pollination of what we were learning about the environmental impact of what we were doing. And I think that partially breaks down ultimately to the end user or the customer that buys a cell phone. They don't have an education that's combined in the scientific world that feeds the common knowledge.
Yeah. So what's happened? Has there been copycats that are mimicking the products that you're creating, or are you?
Yeah,
are you
actually, and you know, that's that doesn't bother me, right? It's a good thing that others sort of are picking up where we are and moving where they go, because it helps actually the person that's using the technology gets more protected. So I sort of, it's interesting that we have people that are mimicking what we do. We're a little different because we have the engineering background to sort of drive this, but it's a business that is being fulfilled by others these days.
Yeah.
And by the way, one of the things I did also as a result of this is I got really irritated that the supplement industry wasn't creating supplements that were dedicated to electric hypersensitivity. So we created another company called Light Body. It's a company that sells supplements specifically for this environment we live in, the digital world. And then another offshoot was Ultra Armor for the military work we're doing. That became a separate company just trying to serve those markets because they're sort of separate than the original customer base we had. Yeah,
I could see that. So what's on just a few minutes on the supplements? How does that work? What kind of supplements should one take, and how does it impact?
So let's talk about the eye. When you look at a monitor, there is a spectrum of light, including blue light. And so you may have heard of blue light blocking glasses.
Yeah.
Well, it's a good thing. It's blocking, it's preventing premature macular degeneration. The back of the eye deteriorates from blue light, the high intensity of blue light. And so we have an eye product that has a component of it that shields blue light. We have we nourish the macula, and then we put water on the front of the eye. Why? Because when you look at a monitor, you don't blink.
Yeah.
You tend not to blink, so your eye becomes dry. So we created a product that has a combination of many aspects that deal with the modern technology that we deal with every day. And it's very unique in a sense that when you get an eye product from someone else, they're not worried about dry eye. We are, because the problem is you get dry eye when you're on a monitor.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
and that's what we did. We have a gut product, for example. We know that if you're electric hypersensitive, you probably have a DevC, it's a bacterium in your stomach that gets elevated. For some reason or another, that bacterium in your stomach likes RF signals. And so it propagates, it flourishes, and at higher levels get pretty seriously dangerous to you. It can be lethal under certain circumstances. And if it's very high, typically you need to get some medication to make sure you keep it in check. And so that's another product we put out. And then I had a friend of mine who had built a product for military exposures for a multivitamin. And so we worked together. We put a good combination multivitamin product out that goes after nourishing the body under the presence of exposures. So the product line is on and on about how you deal with the digital environment we're living in now.
That's amazing.
Yeah, we started one place. Who knows where we're going?
Yeah. Well, that's great because you're servicing a customer, right? That's what I think you hear from a lot of successful entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
You're not just building in isolation. You've identified a specific person.
Yeah.
And sometimes the more detailed you can get around who that person is, the easier it is, and the better you become at developing solutions for that person.
That's exactly what we do. It's literally what does the end customer have as the problem, and what are you trying to solve? And I think you're right. You just have to listen. You don't have to invent as much as you have to listen.
Yeah, that's great. Well, we're running short on time. It's been very enjoyable and educational to talk to you, so I greatly appreciate it. A couple final questions. So you already have 3 companies or 4 companies. I lost count. What else is on the horizon here in the next 12 months?
It's funny. We actually sell worldwide now.
Okay.
And so our goal is always to try to bring what we offer to as many as we can that recognize that they need it. So our goal is to continue that same path and educate with partners. We have like as an example, we have one partner we have that has a product that they help the brain become healthy using light and sound. And where we provide him with education that he brings to his customer base, and we bring his education to our customer base. And so we're trying to partner with others who have the right mindset. How do you help the customer? And I think we'll be doing more of that while continuing to try to find the right product for the customer when they need it.
Yeah. Awesome. Final question. Any final words of wisdom? Many of our listeners are product entrepreneurs, already running a business, trying to grow a business, and many, I think, wants to start a business. What kind of one piece of advice you could share with them, what would be?
Don't be frustrated if you don't make it the first time. Your success is not going to be because you were successful the first time. Your success is going to be because you failed a bunch of times and now you know what not to do.
Yeah. Oh, it's so true. So true. They show that all the time. I mean, I see it about Edison. They always talk about his, and he had more failures than anybody else.
Yeah. It's the failures that you learn how to run a business as well as, and you may have a good idea, but it's a business, and you have to be able to figure out how to run a profitable business to be in business. So,
yeah, so true.
And the only way you learn is by doing it.
Yeah.
So.
And sometimes even the failures are, the stepping stone to something much greater. I know it's cliche to say it, but it's true.
It really is true. I really believe that. One thing you learn some things here, and then maybe it doesn't quite work out the way you want. Then you learn a couple other things that sort of complement what you did, and eventually you have enough of those things on your belt to be able to make a successful next venture.
That's awesome. Well, great advice. Thank you so much for taking time to talk to me today, Daneil. I really appreciate it, and best of luck in whatever's next. Thanks for everything you do.
Thank you, Henrik. I really appreciate you inviting me. Have a good day.
Great talking to you.